The saga of the Chibok schoolgirls in 2014 still remains fresh in our memories. In some ways, it has become synonymous with the war on Boko Haram. The feeling is almost safe once they are found the war is over. However, 112 of them are yet to be returned, which in some sense suggests that the wound still remains open. But government continues to ensure that everything possible is being done to bring them home and to safety. However, salt was almost added to the injury on Monday night. Another daring attack was reported on Government Girls Secondary School in Dapchi, Yobe State by terrorists. More than 100 students were reported missing. Many have since been accounted for, but the fate of some others is still a matter of speculation and hope. We shall discuss this developing story on Nigeria Today. I am Wilfred Ewalifo. Yeah. Welcome back. And on Nigeria Today, we are discussing the developing story on the terrorist attack on GGSS Dapchi. And joining us to discuss this is a regular face in the house, Kabir Adamu, a security risk management expert. Kabir, welcome to Nigeria Today.
Thank you.
And also joining us is another security expert and former OC Strike Force at the Presidential Villa in Abuja, Kayode Olomoran. Kayode, welcome to Nigeria Today.
Thank you very much.
Now let me start straight off with Kabir. Kabir, what are you hearing about the situation on ground in Yobe State?
Conflicting information, unfortunately, from different arms of government. Initially, the state government released a statement announcing that some of the girls have been recovered and that they're in the custody of the military, and the military were trying to verify their identities before releasing them to the public. In the afternoon today, we heard that the governor visited Dapchi and met with some of the parents, and while meeting them made an announcement that the girls had not been discovered, and that prompted some form of spontaneous reaction. Allegedly, some of the parents fainted, and while the others protested and damaged some of the vehicles in his convoy. Later, some other media sources indicated that the army had recounted the information earlier released by the state government. We've also heard that the federal government has sent a delegation comprising 3 ministers. I think the Minister of Defense, Minister of, 3 ministers. We're waiting to hear the outcome of the visit of that delegation. What is important for me is the fact that we're seeing how not to manage a crisis.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to the management of this crisis. But first of all, let's get the initial comments also from Kayode. Actually, we are already having media reports of the some of the details of the visit to the area by the ministers, and indicating the Minister of Information says that they're not, truly, they cannot certain what really is the situation. But are you getting any information from your own sources?
Yes, just to tell Nigerians that the government is not sleeping over the matter. Unlike Chibok girls' case, where it has to take a longer time before the reaction, but you find out that the security agencies swung into action immediately, and they were able to recover some of these girls. And it's not just recovery the security and intelligence about, but they want to bring them to safety. They want to bring them intact. So it will require studying the ground, knowing the quantum, knowing the terrain of what exactly they need to put in place. It's not like they've known
You're just talking now, sorry, if I may interject. You're just talking right now about the environment, which is actually, a very relevant issue right now. Can you give us a sense of that locality? How is Dapchi? What is like? How's it like?
Yeah, Dapchi is in Yobe State and is in a border town. That is to say, Chad, Niger Republic have boundary with them, so they can easily penetrate the country through this border town. And not only that, you will find out that in the event of this Boko Haram, Yobe, we say, recorded a lesser attack than Maiduguri, that is Borno State. And be that is may, the actions of the Boko Haram, or the insurgents, so to say, you find that they are now operating and attacking soft targets, such as girls, elderly people, churches, mosques, where people who are unsuspecting their action, they just pretend to be one of them. Like we have the cases where they come early in the morning, they want to pray together.
Yes.
And then they will enter the mosque together, unknown to, unsuspecting the victim that there is a bomber, suicide bomber.
Yes, kind of fine, yes. That has been the character of the conflict, of recent. But I still want us to look a bit at the Dapchi situation, and this case, let me bring in Kabir. You frequent the Northeast a lot. Is this an environment that you're so familiar with?
Yeah, to an extent. I know the terrain in Yobe State, in Adamawa State, as well as in Borno State. With regards to that particular location, I haven't been to Dapchi itself, and I don't have the structure or the plan of the school that would perhaps give an indication of whether there were vulnerabilities that these groups capitalized on to take advantage. But from the information that has emerged, the fact that it took them 30 minutes to carry out the operation, it tells a lot. It tells me that perhaps the physical security measures that should have been in place in that school to deter or delay entry into that compound were not there. From what we know, they first went to the police division, police post there, shot at whatever they found, and then went to the school. That if they were able to achieve their objective that easily, then definitely the features that should have been there to delay and to deter them were missing. Depending on how this conversation goes, we can talk a bit about what happened after the Chibok girls. What did the government attempt to do? Why wasn't that done?
Yeah, we're actually going to talk about the question of the management of that situation first of all. Let's just try. It's essential first of all to establish what has happened there, to get a sense of what could have been the causative factors. And that's what I'm talking about. Do you also have any inkling into the strength of the attackers? And was there any pronounced terrorist activity in that area, in the days before now?
So let's take ourselves to December 2017 and the surge in Operation Deep Punch, and then the announcement by the military that they have taken over Sambisa Forest. Several times we've heard from the military that the insurgent groups have been dispersed. The last one was the leadership of the group had been identified, but then he was able to escape. If you look at the terrain in the northeast, you would know that if a group has been dispersed, where are the likely places they will go to? So Alagano Forest on the border area between Borno and Cameroon was identified. Some parts of Yobe that are bordering Sambisa Forest were also identified. Madagali, Michika in Adamawa local government were identified because there are routes there that can take you to Cameroon and that has dense foliage through which they can hide and go to. So places like that, it was our assessment was that the possibility of an increase in attack in those locations is very high, and this is an example. The second element that we should consider, the funding avenue for these groups had been blocked by the military. Very commendable. So how else can they raise funding? One possible means is through kidnapping. Of course, we know what happened after the Chibok girls. It raised the profile of the Jamaat al-Alisina al-Dawat wal-Jihad, otherwise called Boko Haram. Now, some of these Chibok girls have been released under circumstances that is not very clear to the public. There are indications that ransom may have been paid. Now that the group is under pressure, the funding avenues have been blocked. The easiest way for it to, regroup and raise its profile is to conduct another kidnapping incident like the one we saw. It chose a target that would achieve two objectives for it. It's essentially against Western education.
Yes.
And the fact that this is a girls' school, it's sending a very strong message that, look, we're still carrying out what we intended to carry out. In terms of the strength of the attackers, we are told they came in hillocks, so we can, do a calculation to ask ourselves how many number of operatives would enter a hillocks. So let's assume it was the conflicting information says some said 2 hillocks, some said 4. So if it was 2, let's say 8 people were able to enter the hillocks, it couldn't have been more than that. So we're looking at probably between 15, 20, or if it's the story is 4, then we're looking there about 30 operators.
Thank you very much, Kabir, for that very elaborate contribution. And Kayode, I know that as he's talked about motivation substantially, and that's a very critical element. Yeah. But also we are talking about the environment and trying to understand the possibility for these people to have operated in the manner in which they probably did. And still within the realm of conjecture, really, you were the master of the environment. That was one of the things that you used to look into as OC of the strike force. Yeah. And earlier we were talking about the environment. Did you talk about any proximity to Sambisa?
Yeah, Dapchi is not too far from there, and the fact remains that they know the terrain more than any soldier or security agent you are just bringing in. They know the way ingress and the ingress. They know the areas that are less placed on surveillance. So, because of this knowledge, they took advantage of that. And of course, mind you, these people, they are not just guerrillas, so to say. Some of them are well trained. Don't let's underestimate that. Well trained, and some of them have really experienced this insurgency, the operation. I remember at the fall of Libya, we have some of these rebels or some of these soldiers trained armed militias that have nothing to do. So, in any trouble spot in any neighboring Africa, it is a good market for them. And don't underestimate the people who are behind this insurgency. They are people that are well-to-do in society. They stay with you. They know what the government is planning. So they go back, relay this to their agents, and then proceed to now give them logistics. You can imagine somebody will be able to drive with hillocks 2 or 3. It's not that it's just,
that's the question I'm going to pose, really, because I mean, you understand the nature of operations, planning operations and all that. I mean, at this stage of this conflict and the management of the conflict, with all the operations of the military, the possibility of, people moving with hillocks.
Yes.
I mean,
yes, I must let you know that it's not every area. The terrain in Dapchi, especially in the northern Nigeria, northeast in particular, is not the same in the middle belt or southwest or south-south, where you have swampy area. In the northeast in particular, hillocks, for example, or 4-wheel drive vehicles can just go on a plain ground.
Not carry. Isn't this a security area?
Yeah, it could be security, but mind you, you cannot be everywhere. That is the truth about it. But my concern is for the fact that they were able to operate in that school, having the back of our mind the Chibok girls' experience. I feel like my colleague was saying that there's a little bit lapses there. Perhaps a little effort to delay will have been a good tactics, which of course will have been able to allow the security to swing into action. In as much as we commend them, I think if we have put security in place to at least delay them and have enough manpower to engage them to some extent, definitely it won't be what we are saying
the issue of the response of the security officials, that's, I think, is also another issue that has come, that has a bit of controversy attached to it. I mean, some clarity we'll get about all this as we go along. But you know what, Kabiri, there's also some suggestion that these people must have done some real intelligence work before proceeding. Yes. I mean, did they choose a soft target? How far away is Dapchi, by the way, from the state capital?
They're about, I think, less than 100 kilometers. Not sure of the exact distance, but definitely less than 100 kilometers. What for me is really critical in this development is the fact that a school of that magnitude with that number of students was left, quote unquote, unattended. there was, I would say, a level of complacency that crept in. This is not the time to blame. It's the time to look and tell ourselves the truth and take actions to ensure that these things don't repeat themselves.
Okay, gentlemen, well, we'll be taking a break now, and when we come back, we'll be talking about, first of all, how to ensure that these actions, in fact, first of all, what we'll be doing now, and then how to prevent these actions. But that will be after this break, and during this break, we'll be taking the views of Nigerians on this subject matter.
My response concerning the attack by Boko Haram, right, on a school in Yobe, is largely, it goes a lot to show how far Africans and Nigerians especially are left behind in terms of security. The lesson of the Chibok girls' abduction should have been enough for the federal government to take proactive measures that will have curtailed the occurrence of such horror things.
You know, it's not easy for government to start sending security men to all over the schools in the northeast as a zone. But the school itself has to adopt some security measures to themselves, collaborating with government, giving informations, having gatesmen at the gates, and other ways of making security available. If there is any suspense, they could easily just call on government, and government could just rush to the scene.
So what they are doing is, when they adopt these girls now, what will happen? Government will bargain with them. In order to release them, you pay some ransom. And they use it to do what? To buy more weapons, to reinforce themselves again. It's just like a cycle. So it's not helping matter. The government should talk less. One, and again, the security architecture of the country should be reviewed. There are people who are not doing what they're supposed to do.
In my opinion, I think they are doing all these things in order for federal government to release some of their members, which they are holding. Once they hold these people, federal government will not say, they will not give them condition. Once we release some of these people, you people will release some of our members you are holding.
A cross-section of Nigerians there offering their views on the terrorist attack on GGSS Dapchi. Gentlemen, you listen to them there, and a couple of issues actually. First of all, the question of the vulnerability of these institutions. And I think that's what you started talking about. But let's also get the comment of Coyote on this.
Like you had some of Nigerians talking. You know what the president said, that Boko Haram now is like the kicking of a dead horse. They are at the verge of total collapse, because the destination in their number is quite an area too that we should consider, that they will want to do all they need to do to sustain their members. Not only that, those that will probably not want to surrender, we now want to find a way of making sure they attack these soft targets. And who are these soft targets? Like the Chibok girls, like in the mosque, like market, just to inflict more injury and be able to negotiate. Now, one interesting thing you will notice is that after the payment of ransom some time ago by federal government to Boko Haram, you will find out that they change their tactics. They do no longer have interest in having confrontation with the Nigerian army, the armed forces. Rather, they now begin to make use of suicide bomber, making use of small girls. As some of these get adopted, some are used for sexual satisfaction. For some of them, they pick them to brainwash them and then make them to go ahead to go and commit suicide. I haven't already, of course, wiped them with the explosives.
Yes, Coyote. We started off talking actually about the vulnerabilities, but Kabir, the Minister of Information actually said that the government is not sure of the true situation of the missing schoolgirls. And like you said at the beginning, there's so much uncertainty. But right now, what should we be doing?
In every effective and efficient crisis management system, handling of information is critical to that. The several arms of government, as well as the departments that are working for these arms, we need to have strategic information between them. Whatever is going out should either corroborate or, to an extent, confirm what the other arm has saying. It is not acceptable in a crisis situation for you to be releasing information that is contradicting one another. That's on the one hand. The government needs to identify the different groups that this will affect. The first and most important are the family members of these victims. There need to be an interface between them and the appropriate authority. In this instance, it will be the state government. Of course, the federal government needs to play its role for obvious reasons. Security is in the hands of the federal government. But like I said, there must be a concerted effort between all these arms to speak the same language. And that language should be one that should comfort and reassure Nigerians.
Yeah, what about the issue of ascertaining if these girls are missing and how to go about rescuing them?
I believe that's ongoing. It's not everything that is happening that should be made public. I use the generic word reassurance. You know, the government may announce that, look, we know where these girls are being taken to and we're in pursuit. That's reassuring. Things like that. But from what I know, a lot of that is ongoing, an attempt to identify and, of course, to rescue these girls. A critical element that has been brought out by the Bring Back Our Girls campaign is the identity of these girls. I think by now we should see a list of the girls that were in those schools at that point in time, and then the ones that are missing right now. What that does is to build confidence. Part of the mistake that was made in the case of the Chibok girls is the conflicting information that emerged. But the moment you identify, the moment you present a list, then even Doubting Thomases and Jills and and the ladies among us would also believe that yes, government is making an effort. But a couple of days after that incident, we are yet to see that kind of list.
Okay, very quickly, Kayode, we've talked about the vulnerability, and he just spoke about what should be done now. But we've talked about, also we've been thinking about what should schools do to forestall anything like this. What do you think as an expert should be done about the security architecture in schools?
Yeah, I think you go to school now these days, you have the subject called chemistry, you have mathematics, English, and all that. It is high time now we total overhaul as educational system, begin to give a security education to our children. Awareness. Now you virtually know your classmates, you know all your teachers. Suddenly you find out that in a school, a strange vehicle will start driving into the compound. With a security experience or education, once you are told that if you see any strange vehicle, raise alarm, raise alert. I mean, you shout and all that kind of thing. It goes a long way to demoralize the attacker, and the extent of their success may even be weakened, or in a way where you just I draw an example in Lagos some time ago. An armed robber decided to go and rob a bank, and what would the populace were just looking, okay, somebody raised an observation, just cross your vehicle across the road. And everybody now realized, oh, that is what we can do. It's not just watching, but everybody dumped their vehicles across, so there was no route way for them to escape. So these are kind of a thing. A pinch of a nail on somebody is a form of fight too. It's an instrument. It's a weapon. So having this awareness has not been there. And again, it is time for Nigerians to begin to see that, look inward, even in your own home, that personal security, community security, school security, in particular school security. Because, of course, no matter how wealthy you are, no matter how unworthy you are, the moment your own son or your word is taken captive, definitely it affects you.
Thank you for carrying that. Just from you quickly, a few words about the issue of the security architecture.
The After the Chibok incident, the federal government, together with several international partners, launched the Safe School Initiative that was recently subsumed by the Presidential Committee on the Northeast Initiative. It had three core mandates. One of them is to improve the security standards in school. We're not seeing enough of that. I think the PCNI, Presidential Committee on Northeast Initiative, need to come up with a checklist, work with the state governments, Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa, and security experts like us. We can assist in developing a checklist that these schools can use. What will this checklist do? It would ensure that the physical security, the processes, as well as the equipment that are necessary to delay and deter unauthorized entry into schools.
Okay. Kabir Adamu, security expert. On that note, I must thank you very much for coming on Nigeria today.
Thank you for having me.
And also, Coyote, thank you very much for joining us on Nigeria today and for the views you have preferred.
Thank you very much.
And that is Nigeria Today, and we've been discussing the attack on Government Girls Secondary School, Dapchi in Yobe State. The Minister of Information has said that they are still looking at the situation, but has assured that government will continue to provide for the security of Nigerians. On that note, we thank you very much for watching Nigeria Today. I'm Wilfred Ewalefe.